For my personal beliefs project, my topic is how to effectively teach English language learners. I chose this topic because I am currently teaching in a community with many migrant families, and I've had many English language learners in my classroom. Therefore, my feelings on if I research and observe ways to effectively teach to ELL students that will help me be able to differentiate my teachings in becoming a better student-centered teacher. Some teacher roles. You first start out with direct instruction. This gives students information to learn. And then you move to modeling, shows students how to do something through actions. And then scaffolding. This provides help for students when they are solving a problem. Some of the learning models that students have. Demonstration. This is when students observe the teacher or other students how to perform some task. Then second model is intent. From the result of demonstration, the learner must buy into what to perform. To perform what someone has demonstrated. Thirdly is self-concepting. Learners must be able to realistically see themselves doing what is being demonstrated. Fourth is learn by doing, or kinesthetic learning. Learners learn by doing, such as reading. They learn reading by reading. Fifth is feedback. You can learn by getting feedback from teachers or other students, and this may affect their learning positively or negatively. And integration, when the learner adds new knowledge and skills to what they already know. Differentiating instruction. Through my research, student observations, and teacher experiences, I have learned a lot already on how to differentiate my teachings to engage English language learners. Many English language learners are very visual learners and need that visual stimulation to help them understand the new material. That is why color coding, words, and the use of pictures in your teaching have huge benefits. Other types of instruction is hands-on instruction or kinesthetic learning. This is where you provide projects that are hands-on to engage your students. These might include small groups, skits, acting out vocabulary words. Another type of instruction would be modeling. Being a good model for all students is necessary as a teacher, and especially for EL students. For some EL students, school is the only place in the day where they hear and speak another language other than their native one. Therefore, being a good role model by speaking clearly and modeling good language is very valuable to ELL students. When modeling, be careful not to take away from a student's uniqueness. You don't want students to copy exactly what you do. When modeling, make sure you give them ideas and direct the students' own ideas. In my teaching career, I have found many valuable lessons about how important visuals are in your teaching. One of my favorite stories from my observations as a teacher were when I was in a kindergarten class. I was having one of the EL students write down numbers 0 through 10 in correct order. He had written 0 through 6 just fine. Then when he was writing down the number 7, he first wrote the number down, then looked at the clock to see if he had written it correctly. As soon as he looked at the clock, he said yes, and continued with the rest of the numbers. When I witnessed this, I chuckled inside on the account of how cute this was, but in all reality, it was an aha moment in my teaching career. This experience showed me how important it is to have visuals around the classroom. In my classroom, I will have number lines, the alphabet, word walls with pictures, and many more depending on what is being taught. Not only will this help my English language learners, but it will also help the whole class in learning, especially the visual learners. Visuals were the most common theme that came up in my experiences as a teacher. Some other ones were many students of my EOL students would watch other students in the classroom, making sure that they were doing it right. Color coding visuals was another key in my teaching that I've noticed, and I will continue. I noticed by color coding the numbers, it was easier for the students to match. Another observation that I made, when one of the EL students was making a portrait of himself and was coloring his shirt, he kept on looking at the letters on the shirt to match the portrait. What was kind of fun to notice is a lot of his letters are backwards because he was looking at his letters upside down. And when I was observing another teacher, I noticed that she was teaching about food groups. She used food cards with pictures of foods and the names of the food to help ELL students. The other types of learning, hands-on learning, or kinesthetic learning, was the second most common form of instruction that I've came across. When I was working with the students and reading the different articles I came across in my research, I noticed a lot about having our ELL students actively learn by using their hands and moving around. Throughout my teaching career, I have done a lot of hands-on activities, and I noticed that my ELL students were more engaged and overall had a better learning experience than when they worked independently on medial tasks. In my research, I came across articles stating effective teaching strategies in regards to ELL students. In this research, hands-on learning was a common occurrence. Having students interact with each other and learn while moving has positive effects on a student's progress and learning, such as Unifix cubes, making projects fun and memorable learning experiences, using electronic devices, computers, where students can navigate their own learning, students playing games and acting out words, make the learning more engaging for them. Here's a quote from an article that I found about engaging ELL students. Encourage ELLs to talk about the story by having them point out their favorite parts, in English or in their home language, if an aide or parent is available to interpret. When you encourage students to actively participate in the lesson, they are going to get a lot more out of the lesson. Cooperative learning environments help ELL students learning in a positive learning environment. When working in small groups, students have more time to get questions answered. Also, by working in small groups, students feel more comfortable to interact and discuss what they have to offer. The last common theme that I came across through my research and observations was teacher modeling. Having a teacher who effectively models student tasks is known to increase student learning. When teaching ELL students, often they don't know what to do or understand what is being taught. That is why modeling is such an effective strategy to use when teaching ELL students. When teachers actively model tasks, students are able to perform, the student can see what the teacher is doing if they don't completely understand, and can follow along during direct instruction. So in this example I have here, using visuals doesn't always work. Sometimes you need to correct the model by translating from English to Spanish for the student. Another form of modeling would be when students aren't understanding, modeling the task by physically showing your student how to do it helps all students, especially the ELL students, understand what they're supposed to be doing. I found it very interesting to observe an interaction between an EL student and his mom. The mom would translate what the teacher was teaching in English into Spanish for her son. And anytime you have a parent involvement at school helping model to their child is a very valuable learning experience for that student. Oftentimes, when only giving direct instruction without modeling what to do, students become very confused. When I first taught shaving cream numbers, I didn't model how to write their numbers in the shaving cream. I just told them what number to write. After going around the room and having to stop at a number of ELL students and help correct their numbers, I figured out that if I first model how to write the number using the whiteboard, the students would have wrote the numbers correctly. After great modeling, the students wrote beautiful numbers, and I rarely had to help students with their numbers. Throughout my teachings, I found out that introducing vocabulary words before teaching a new unit helps the EL students understand the material better. In my resources, I found modeled reading can increase ELL learning. Read slowly and clearly with a lot of dramatic expression. Plan fairly short read-aloud sessions. 10 minutes of listening is about all the student can do all that students new to a language can predictably absorb. When talking to the class, model good speech. Teaching to a class requires a lot of talking, so make sure you enunciate and talk clearly for your students to understand, process what you're saying, especially with ELL students, as it may take them longer to process or translate what you are trying to teach the class. Now, from what I have learned in my ESOL classes and teaching experiences, I am more aware of English language learners' needs. Throughout my teaching career, I will continually make efforts in using visuals, offering many hands-on projects, and teaching by modeling in ways to make the classroom feel more like a one-on-one setting for the ELL students. I also now know that many ELLs have low self-esteem in the classroom due to confusing translations. Therefore, by making an effort every day to use positive reinforcements, I hope to instill self-motivation and provide a welcoming classroom environment for English language learners.